Hi everyone. I'm creating this video not to tell you that you can't diet, but I am here to define what dieting is to me and what I actually allow myself when it comes to food. I understand that people have to avoid things like dairy, lactose, which are two different allergies, gluten, and other things. And of course they should if it hurts them. And even if it's just a preference, I think that's fine too. I believe I even have a mild intolerance to lactose, so I tend to only drink nut milks, rice milk, and coconut milk. It's actually very important what we consume and that we're intentional about it, because a lot of illnesses, including some terminal or life-threatening ones, are likely due to the chemically saturated foods we eat so often. If you don't read nutrition labels on a regular basis, you might be surprised what you're eating. I think that things like fertility and general well-being should be considered too, and you might be surprised how much better off we'd be if we ate fresher and better foods. But before I get into what I do consume and why, let me explain that most of the time, limiting yourself of foods for the sole purpose of losing weight won't do the most good unless you're also exercising and resting and hydrating enough. It won't hurt you really, unless you're starving yourself and calling it dieting, or you're depriving yourself of essential nutrients. And I'm sure that differs between people, but for the most part, we all need similar nutrients, so we have to be honest about that. It's not fatty foods that people or Americans have a problem with most. It's sugar, actually, I think is the biggest problem. But of course, anything in excess is detrimental. Even having too much good fat or too much organic food can overfill you and can make you tired at the very least, if not backtrack weight loss and eating well. I mean, eating well, even if you don't lose a ton of weight, will just help you in pretty much every way I can think of. But instead of listing all that off, let me just get into more specifics. There are many good fats, like I mentioned, that we should eat in moderation, like avocados are one of many examples of a good fat, and meat. People have this misconception that meat is the enemy, but I eat meat all the time, and it's easy to eat too much of it, which is a problem, and some of it can be really salty, or maybe the sauce that goes with it has maybe something artificial in it, and I'll get more into things like that. But and I know that some people maybe have to avoid red meat, and there are things like that that are fine, but meat is not the problem. I think meat is one of God's greatest gifts to humanity, and some of you disagree, and that's fine, but that's my opinion. That sugar, though, it's sneaky. It's even in unsuspecting foods, like savory ones, you wouldn't think would have sugar. So we have to be careful to eat the right kinds of sugar and only a little bit. I avoid artificial or alternative sweeteners. I can't even think of a brand of one at the moment, but I know you see them at almost every coffee kiosk. There's always something that's like a replacement sugar. I think that I've heard that they cause cancer, and I can't prove that, but I don't even think they taste the same. It's just off-putting. I only use pure cane sugar, and stevia, a natural sugar. I think stevia is from a flower. It's like a leaf of a flower. I'm not really sure, but it's a natural sweetener. So all food intolerances aside, dieting tends to define itself in most cases as a temporary deprival of whatever food group or food type, and often comes with many falls off the wagon. That's kind of my definition of dieting. I think that we fall off the wagon so much when we're dieting because our body wants those fatty foods, the good fats, remember. And of course, if our body is craving harmful foods, we've trained it to crave them by consuming them so much. That's why I've trained myself to avoid them now. I've found a healthy alternative for basically all the foods I crave. And since I've trained myself to avoid artificial foods, I just taste the fakeness when I do revert to trying them. Maybe they're served at a party, or I haven't had a candy that I haven't had in years. I can taste how how fake it is now. Sometimes I'll allow myself, like Good and Plenty. I was looking at Good and Plenty the other day, almost bought it, and even that has artificial colors. Almost every other ingredient, aside from the sugar content, I mean, it's okay, but man, I was so disappointed. Every candy these days, unless it's at a natural food store, isn't colored naturally at all. It's like with terrible ingredients. But anyway, let me show you examples of what I'm talking about before I go on, of healthy alternatives. Okay, I grew up with Pop-Tarts, and I remember, I think at school, I would, for breakfast in high school, even high school, which was not that long ago for me. I mean, I graduated college in 2015, so it's long enough, but when I was in high school, I loved it wasn't even the frosted ones, it was just the chocolate chip Pop-Tarts. Man, those were so good, and I love Pop-Tarts when they're toasted, but I haven't eaten a real Pop-Tart in a long time, but I looked at it's called Natural Grocers. I found a really great I don't know if it's all natural. I'm gonna go. It says it's organic, and I'm gonna read you the ingredients so you can see. But I tried one of these, and I'm not saying, oh, I wish I had a real Pop-Tart. It tastes so good, just slightly warm, toasted. I put it in my convection oven probably 5 minutes just to get a little crispy, and the fruit inside gets warm. Oh, it's so good. Let me read you the ingredients. I'm going to read you every ingredient so you can hear that there's no color of the rainbow on here, and there's nothing that I can't pronounce or identify. Okay, there's wheat flour, cane sugar. So again, if you have gluten allergy, this wouldn't be a good option. And this is an example of something you might want to avoid, but for me, I don't. Wheat flour, cane sugar, invert cane syrup, palm oil, cherries, apples, whole wheat flour, cornstarch, vital wheat gluten, sea salt, leavening, which includes baking soda and cream of tartar, tapioca starch, pomegranate juice concentrate, dextrose, rice starch, cherry flavor, citric acid, honey, molasses, vanilla flavor, algin. I actually don't know what algin is. I will look it up while I'm on this video. Sodium citrate, monocalcium phosphate, whey protein concentrate. It has milk in there. That's probably what it is, or it's part of milk. Colored with betalains, paprika extract from plants. It says it's organic, contains wheat and milk. Okay, now I'm going to look up a couple of these ingredients, because if I do come across something I don't know, I do look it up, and if I turn out to be misinforming you and they're harmful, then I will correct myself. So the first ingredient is algin. I actually didn't see this when I was buying this. Sometimes when it screams organic, I don't look as closely to the nutrition labels, but okay. Brown algae. Okay. Colloidal substance. It's derived from marine brown algae and used as an emulsifier or thickener. I can't say that sounds appetizing, but I think that's part of what makes the fruit kind of that almost gelatin texture. Okay, so algin, sodium citrate, that's probably salt, and that's probably not like the most ideal ingredient. Monocalcium phosphate. I'm going to look up this one and one more. Monocalcium phosphate. Inorganic. Okay, it's inorganic compound with a chemical formula. It's commonly found as a monohydrate. Okay, so the fact that it's inorganic is not ideal, and that's interesting that they have that on the list here in this organic Pop-Tart thing. It is a leavening agent. It's kind of like yeast. It makes baked goods rise. It's made from minerals, it says, found naturally in the earth. I'm not sure why it says it's inorganic then. Maybe I'd have to really look into that. But even if I find out it's not the best ingredient, I will say that most of the ingredients in here are fine. The fact that it took me a while to get through the list, though, is when I'm going to get to some rules that I follow when it comes to eating foods and what I allow myself to consume, and I'll get to that later. But the fact that it's kind of a long list means it's kind of more processed. So I always err on the side of less ingredients rather than more, and I'll get to that later. Okay, but let me get to the second example. Okay, so my husband and I still occasionally have fruit snacks. It's kind of a nice, like, right before bed snack because it's light and fruity and chewy. It's kind of a nice treat sometimes. So we were getting one brand for a while. I can't remember which one. And then we started getting Welch's. I think that getting Welch's was a mistake because it looked like the other brand we were getting. So let me show you what's in Welch's fruit snacks. You might be surprised it's not great. This says fruit puree, grape, apple, orange, and cherry, which sounds okay so far. Corn syrup, iffy. Sugar, gotta be careful not to have too much. Modified cornstarch, gelatin, citric acid, lactic acid, natural and artificial flavors. Ascorbic acid, which it says is vitamin C, alpha tocopherol acetate. I don't know what that is. It says it's vitamin E, vitamin A, palmitate, sodium citrate, coconut oil, caonuba wax, and red 40. We only have a few more left of these, but that was disappointing. I realized the other day that we were eating all these fake ingredients, and honestly, I couldn't really tell because the fact that they're a gummy processed, basically candy, it was hard to really say, oh, that tastes so fake, but then I was like, okay, we're finding one without artificial anything in there, okay? So I found Mott's, and Mott's, for example, with applesauce, I don't get their applesauce because, like in here, I'll read, it says it has corn syrup. I think that their applesauce has high fructose corn syrup, which is not ideal, but the kind of brand of applesauce I get is Treetop. Treetop is basically just apples. Like, it's, I don't know if it's organic, but it doesn't have anything fake in it, no artificial. Treetop is, like, the best, and it tastes way better, honestly. It's maybe a little chunkier, which isn't an ideal texture for applesauce for most people, but it does not bother me at all. You know, when you have applesauces that are like blueberry applesauce, I think Mott's does that. They do like different flavors and colors. I think that you will see artificial colors in there and probably flavors too. So Mott's has let me read you the ingredients for the Mott's fruit snacks. It won't take long. Corn syrup, sugar, modified cornstarch, pear juice concentrate, apple juice concentrate, strawberry puree, carrot juice concentrate. Contains 2% or less of fruit pectin, citric acid, vitamin C, dextrose, sodium citrate, malic acid, potassium citrate, sunflower oil, vegetable and fruit juice added for color and natural flavor, which is probably MSG. Monosodium glutamate, sometimes people call it natural flavor. Caonuba wax. Okay. Now, the good thing is it doesn't say artificial flavors, and it does not have any colors of the rainbow. I'm kind of spoiling some of the rules that I follow when it comes to eating, but I'm almost there, okay? Now, most of us reach a certain point where eating right isn't enough. Exercise is good for us, even if we don't lose pound after pound. I wish that after a short jog that I would lose 10 pounds, but honestly, it'd probably shock our system. Our heart and mind benefit probably most of all from exercise. I'm careful about what I eat, but it doesn't limit me that much, which is why I can't really call it a diet. It's a permanent lifestyle choice for me, and it doesn't deprive me of really any necessary food. Very opposite from my definition of a diet. Now here are my rules for what I consume, which I will put in the description as well. Number 1. Aim to eat mostly pro foods, produce, and protein, usually a meat. Again, you can't eat like a meat this big and 5 apples in one sitting. Okay, that's going to hurt your stomach. It's not smart. You're probably not that hungry ever. So obviously think about your portion size, which is number 2. Don't overeat. But before I get to don't overeat, when it comes to meats, I try to get fresh or frozen. I don't try to get things in a can. If I want something quick like that, I'll get it like the Star-Kissed bags of pre-seasoned tuna or salmon, which is kind of nice and cheap, but I don't like cans. There are different reasons for that. You may not care, but again, for veggies as well and fruits, I don't like syrupy canned. I'd rather frozen or fresh. Okay, don't overeat. That's number 2. I make sure to abide by the serving size on the nutrition labels, but believe me, this is one thing I struggle with the most with food, since I love food. I am a self-proclaimed foodie. If something is right in front of me and I love it, I won't necessarily stop when I'm full. Well, I'll eat so fast that I'm eating past my limit before I've digested it enough. Number 3, don't eat food with chemicals or unpronounceable ingredients. If you can't identify what's on that list, look it up before you go buying it. I think that most of us can tell when it's a chemical or an actual food ingredient. It's just in about everything. So when you're at Walmart and things that aren't natural or organic all the way around, you have to look very hard for things like that. They're usually the ingredient that's kind of hidden and on the bottom shelf when you're at those stores. The less ingredients, the better. Usually if it has like 5 to maybe 10 ingredients or less, it's good. But if it goes on and on, like if there's a whole side panel for it, it's really processed and probably not that nutritious. If your child or your childhood self can't pronounce or identify these ingredients, you should probably avoid it. And last, number 4, don't eat anything with the word artificial on it. That goes for colors or flavors. I really can taste artificial stuff now that I've rid myself of that habit. So it's not the end of the world. Sometimes they have these pickles at these corner stores that have like yellow in it, or like if you eat a Welch's fruit snack and it has red in it, it's probably not the end of the world, but I'm not going to say the side effects of the red because it's honestly just gross. And it may not happen to everyone, especially if you're used to it, but I don't even think those rules are that strict. Like I said, I don't feel restricted. That's really about it. It's just 4 rules. It might seem like a lot, but it really isn't. I just read the labels and hunt for the one that abide by those rules. No artificial colors, relatively short list, things like that. Organic is usually a safe place to go. Going to natural food stores helps a ton, like Sprouts, Natural Grocers, and so on. I eat meat, veggies, fruits, chips, crackers, veggies. I already said veggies. I love veggies. You can even make them like fried veggies, almost like making them into chips. Just don't oversalt them or drown them in oil or anything. I even eat sugary things. In moderation, I really am not a sweet tooth, so I'm okay with that. It's salt that I have a problem with. I am a salty nut. But the only thing I really need to worry about is not eating too much of anything. That's probably my biggest problem. And I also eat when I'm upset or bored at times, which is also common between people and not that healthy. So do as I say, not as I do, and eat when you're hungry only. You may still ask, why should I concern myself with what I consume? It's so expensive to eat healthy anyway. Well, sometimes it costs a little more, but not usually by much. This Pop-Tart box, it comes with 6 pastries, okay? They are 2 to a bag, so there's 6 of them. In a regular Pop-Tart box, there's 8, so there's 1 more set of 2. But they're literally like the same price, and you just get 1 less packet in this. And as for these, the Mott's, I think, is healthier than this. Not by much, but it's only 0.1 ounce or grams. 1.1 ounce less than this one. So it's like you're really not spending that much more, and it's only slightly less. I don't even think you have to go to the store any more than you are to get these things. And I understand people have to avoid things like dairy, lactose, gluten, and other things. So be careful about things like that. But as for it being expensive, it's worth it to increase your budget if it's necessary. But like I said, you may not even have to. The foods that we eat that have chemicals, artificial colors, and flavors, and even cancerous ingredients, is it really, what are we filling our body with? You want to spend the same price just because it has more, but you're getting more of these terrible ingredients. Personally, I think that it's affecting just how we feel throughout the day, and it causes illnesses in some cases. I really believe that. It's not filling you up as fast, so you have to buy it more. I think that's part of why they put so much MSG and things and salt and sugar. Your body starts to crave it, and you have to go back to the store when you see a commercial about it again. And when you run out of your disgustingly wonderful fake Pop-Tarts, you get more. It's just how it is. And I can help anyone with virtually any budget find healthy foods. Like these Pop-Tart pastries are so delicious. I'm sorry, they so are. And basically everything in there is just fine. It doesn't hurt me. And I'm sure it's a lot healthier than what they put in those Pop-Tarts. Have you read what's in Pop-Tarts? I don't know if there's a real ingredient in there. Trust me, I grew up in a financially tight family, and when I'm working, I teach. And we don't earn that much financially as a teacher. I know how to stretch a dollar. I know how to find things on our budget. Just check the labels and make your choice. And definitely stay active. I don't run marathons or play a sport. I just walk or jog a few times a week. I get up at least every hour if I've laid down or sat too long. I bicycle and swim when I get the chance. And it's nothing crazy. I eat sometimes when I'm bored or upset, like I said, which is a problem. It's hurt me over the last few years because I think it's slowed down my metabolism when I'm eating, when I'm not hungry. So I've had to kind of work off the weight I've gained over that. So only eat when you're hungry. It's fuel, not a part of you. I'm a foodie, so I know how to enjoy this fuel, but I need to treat it as such. And honestly, I'm not deprived with these rules I've set for myself. I've shared them in this video, and I will share them in the link below. I apologize, this video is a little bit longer than normal, but I want it to be informative. I could have gone even longer, honestly, but anyway, I hope you enjoyed it. Just take a look at the description. I'm sure a lot of you will be like, oh, 25 minutes. I'm just going to look at the description anyway, so I'll put the good stuff in the description. If you stuck it out with me, thank you. I hope it was helpful. I'm not trying to change you or what you eat, but you might be better off if you are not following the rules that I've set out, because I've seen a lot of issues, not just with me, by not abiding by those rules. So hopefully it helps, or at least is informative, even if it changes nothing about what you're doing. Maybe you're already conscious about stuff like this. That's why I'm not on a diet. I'm just careful to read what's put in these foods, which then gets put into my body. That's about it. Same with drinks. A lot of drinks have the same issues. So anyway, just take a look at those ingredients, and I hope that you look forward to next time like I do. Talk to you later.